afternoon, everybody. Sports fans all around the globe, welcome to East Coast Sports Investors Closing Bell for Friday, July 22nd, 2022. Baseball back, full slate tonight. It's payday, it's Fade the Public Friday, all that good stuff. Hoping no one here will get stuck with their pizza on the oven as they get stuck at a casino or a local tavern near you, bringing home the dinner and get caught up chasing from the early games to the late games, the West Coast games, and the couch. So good to be back. Good to have the closing bell with my co-host. Interesting slate, to say the least. I got a number that will blow your head off. I'll be interested to see what Scott has to say there. Couple flips on the board from overnight to opening to now today. I've seen a lot of trends from our buddies, Mr. SoCal DGen, on social media. Interesting there as always. So look forward to diving in. I see a handful of potential plays. The spaghetti strainer is in full effect. First weekend back from the break, obviously, and it's tough to get a good gauge on what these teams did leading up to the break, during the break, and obviously their first game back last night. Again, the Marlins are still searching for their bats. It's been 33, 34, 35 innings without a run. Craig Mish is going postal. Never mind Don Mattingly after the game. Chad, their star, Jazz Chisholm out 6 weeks. So there's another blow there. What looked like a snoozer in the late game. Dodgers up 2-0, 5-0, and then the Giants are up for 5. Take a 6-5 lead. Dodgers tie it, and then Mookie goes yard for a three-run homer to seal that deal. So lots of things going on. So let's bring him in from the Palm Tree State himself, the one, the only, Mr. Scott E. Webb. Afternoon, Scott.
Hey, Jeff. It's a fabulous Friday, as they say, some places.
Yeah, it is. It's another day closer. I mean, it's the 22nd. So hold on one second. January, February, March, April, May, June, July. So July has the old elementary trick. July has 31 days. So we have 9 days left in July. On the 10th day will be August 1st. Definitely the dog days of summer, as a lot of people have checked out and left the building for their summer cottages. Kids on vacation, kids getting ready to go back to school. And I say that tongue in cheek. My daughter, literally, Kylie, has a month and 5 days, and she's got to go to UConn. And so it's already, I'm a firm believer. July 4th, the summer's over. As we're getting ready for the fall and get the kids back to school. But heat wave here back east. I left it in Vegas, 113, 114. And it's, mid-90s, 100% humidity here. You walk outside, and our buddy Billy in Louisiana says, you get swamp, you know what, in the first 5 seconds.
There's no question. It's been an interesting summer, right? I mean, things happen and stuff goes on, and politics is crazy, and the world is crazy, and why not have sports be crazy too? I mean, look at the contract that was just signed by the quarterback in Arizona. I mean, holy shit, this stuff is stupid. But whatever. I mean, people get what they want. They are, people are willing to pay. That's the price. So I guess that's the way it goes.
I saw something interesting, and I'll start with this, and then we'll dive into the games. We got a few people watching and listening. The Juan Soto deal, turning down $440, it is what it is. Obviously, he doesn't want to stay at Washington, but if you really break down those numbers, his average would be $29 million, 15 years. I told you, if you want 35, 38 million a year, give him 10 years at whatever the number is and work it out that way. But seeing a couple of the big teams saying, no, we're not interested in giving up 3 prospects and yada, yada, yada. Someone brought this up, and I think it's a hell of a deal. You don't have to. If you make the trade with Washington, as much as you want to extend him long term. I think you have him for this half a year and 2 more full years before he can then go to free agency. So you almost can rent him for 2.5 years and then figure it out from there.
Well, I think that's what's going to happen. I mean, who's going to pay this price? I mean, as baseball salaries and the new CPA and all that stuff were done, I think that you're going to give up one or two good guys and prospects, or you're going to give up a couple of players that are major league ready, whatever, and then you bring in Juan Soto and you bring him in for the 2.5 years, and then if you get a chance to sign him again, and you sign him again. If you don't, then you don't. You don't worry about it. You move along, because it's a little different than when Manny Machado and those guys came through, when they were and Harper and those guys. And they're not getting this kind of number. And 300 million was the number then, and maybe it was 30 years and 10 or 30 million and at 10 years apiece, or per year for 10 years. And then when you look at what Soto's doing, I get the idea that, okay, it's 29 million, but $1 million difference. There's more to it than that. And I also think that, his agent, Scott Boras, is in play here too, in a sense that he wants to set a new market and wants to get some stuff done for other players that may come along. And I don't know who those are, but those other players could come along. You'd think about Acuna and those guys, but they're already signed. Those guys signed deals already. Like Franco, he already signed deals in Tampa already. So who's the next young superstar coming up? Well, I don't know who that might be, but the truth of the matter is Soto's going to go somewhere, and when he goes, people are going to be surprised at who he goes to and what they give up, because the truth is they don't have to give up a whole lot. And once they get him, he's going to be there for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden he's going to help that team, and that team's going to go and move on or do whatever they're going to do, and then he's not going to be part of that team either. So it's I saw a phrase being used over and over here lately, and that phrase basically says is that loyalty is a one-way street for the stupid. And basically what that means is if you're so loyal to someone and it costs you, there's no reason to be that way. So, there's that way to look at it. And then there's the same way that Ramirez did in Cleveland, right? He could have got a whole tons of money, but he didn't. And he's happy as he can be playing there. So, it just depends on, I guess, what your life is like, your family situation is, and what makes you comfortable. As far as I'm concerned, if a guy makes $350 million or $440 million, I get it. The difference is $90 million, but at the same time, $440 million you can't walk away from.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are saying Ramirez kind of screwed the pooch here, because, like you said, if you're comfortable and you really want to stick and stay, and the Reds, I hate to keep bringing the team up, because they're actually playing that card. Hey, you guys say you want to be here, you want to stay here. Look at Tom Brady. He always took the team-friendly deal because he wanted to spend the money elsewhere. So he had an opportunity to be playing in the last 2 weeks of the season versus going out golfing, fishing, or doing whatever else he wants to do in the offseason because you're out of the playoffs. Now, with that said, I'm going to throw a question at you. They're prospects. That doesn't mean they're going to become superstars.
Mm-mm.
And it's funny, I go way, way back when we needed a reliever, and we get a rental by the name of Larry Anderson, and we gave up Jeff Bagwell. Now, I'm not calling him a Hall of Fame world superstar, but he had a pretty good damn career. So it does happen. But a team like the Mets, okay, you're competing for the back page with the Yankees. Judge is going to be a free agent, but most likely he's going to stick and stay. The fact is, if you add Soto to the Mets and they don't leave any of the players that are playing right now, they give up the P word, the prospects, and you're wheeling out DeGrom healthy and Scherzer healthy with Soto in the middle of that lineup, they then become they're 7-1 right now. They go to 4-5-1 with the rest of them.
No, I agree. I mean, there's teams that can use him right away. I mean, San Diego's another one. That these teams they need to hit, and they got pitchers, but it's just a matter of what they got and what they're willing to do and what the Nationals are willing to do. Because I don't think the Nationals are going to trade him in the National League East. So I think those teams are out. But I do think that I look at it this way, right? You brought up Tom Brady and these team-friendly contracts and different things because he wanted to win. These guys aren't playing because they want to win. Winning is secondary to how much money they make, and they play that way. These most, I shouldn't say they all do that. Most of these teams don't play like teams, and they don't build upon what the guy did before them. They go up there and try to do what they can do to hit a home run or to do whatever. They're not the same. It's not, the game's not played that way anymore, and it's kind of a little bit of a shame that way, just because the culture is that way, right? It's a me society, and it carries right into baseball.
Yeah, bring up that other league with the three initials MBA, and I always talk about divas. I talk about brands, sneaker deals, music deals, 2K score rating. And it's not about playing for a team and banners anymore, and it's disgusting. So enough of that. The board today. If I told you, A, the Marlins are favored, and B, their team total is 4.5 juice under, -125 with a total of 8.5. Is Vegas betting on the come, or does Miami get 5 or more today?
Well, in looking at that game, I think the Miami pitcher's been pretty good over his last few starts, but on the season, he's a 52 game score, so he's just a bit above average. And the guy that he's facing, Thompson, is a guy that hasn't been so good. He's a 44 on the season, but over his last 7 is at a 50, so he's been at least average. And I just look at this and go, okay, well, Miami hasn't scored any damn runs. And, I tried to fix that yesterday. I tried to be on yesterday to get a guy on the first inning. I'm like, okay, here we go. And nothing. And then nothing the rest of the whole game. I mean, 0. And that's not an uncommon thing for this team, especially in the last 4 games. I think they haven't scored any runs in the last 4 games. So when you start to think about what's going on, at some point, these teams are going to go. But that's not for me to decide when that is. You want to bet that after they've done that so that you can figure that out, right? So you just play it out like you normally would. And the way I see this game is the Miami and Pittsburgh, these 2 starters faced each other the very last time they started, both of them. So it's a rematch of that game. Garrett, who's on the mound, threw a game score 78. He was outstanding in that game. That's his best game of the season. And Thompson was really good too. He was a game score 64. So I would expect there to be some runs in this game just because I don't think both pitchers are going to have the same results. And I think the teams are going to adjust to that. So I would expect to see some runs here.
A couple games before I turn it over to you, there was an overnight flip in Boston, overnight Eovaldi -110 against Gausman. And I know Gausman has been lights out against the Red Sox this year. Currently now looking, it was as high as a 115, 118. Now Toronto -110, 112, 120. What do you think of the flip there?
I agree with it. But that's just because of the way I do the games, right? So Eovaldi, this is only be his second start off of the IL. So his first start wasn't so good. He had a couple of good innings there, and then he got bombed. So the way I see this is you want to keep betting against Eovaldi until he turns it around. He's in a spot where he had a game score 38. That was the first time. And, he didn't go 5 innings. Toronto is also a team that offensively is performing much better right now than Boston is. The bullpen in Boston is not very good right now. So when you start to think about it and you go, Well, Gossman's been pretty good. His last start was only a game score 51. So that's, it's an average number. But over his last 7 starts, or for the season anyway, he's a 57, and his last 3 starts is a 58. So he's been better, and he's been really, really good this season, like you said, against Boston. So my numbers say Toronto's favorite minus 120. So it didn't surprise me that the number flipped, and I think that that's the right way to go here.
And last but not least, I think a little surprise, Oakland overnight opened up minus 115 at home against Howard, another anemic offense and a poor team, especially at home. You've talked about that at length. Wake up this morning and currently Texas now minus 113 and minus 115.
Yeah, I don't agree with that one. And the reason I don't agree with that one is because Howard's just not a good pitcher. I mean, I understand that he was a high draft pick and a guy that was supposed to come out and pitch really good and be the next guy in line in Philadelphia, but he never worked out that way. And now that he's in Texas, he's not doing any better. His game score on the season is 33. That's not very good. His last 7 starts is a 41, which isn't really 7 starts because I only use the ones that are strung together. And I think he's only made 3 starts in a row here, but 41 is better than 33. I mean, that's an improvement. And then he has faced Oakland already this year, and he pitched a 46 against them. And Irvin has, I think, quietly gone through having one of the better seasons that an Oakland pitcher would have. That's not named Montas. He and Montas and Blackburn are getting all the recognition out there. But Irvin, his number, his last game start was a 68. His last 3 starts are a 69. 3 starts, and he's got a 69 over those 3 starts. And for the season, he is at a 57. That's pretty damn good. So he pitched against this team earlier this year a couple of times. He's got a 63 game score against Texas, and over his last 5 starts against Texas, it's a 57. So he's a much more polished pitcher, which gives them a chance to stay in the game. Question becomes is whether or not the offense can do anything. And you're pitching Howard out there, but I agree with the small favorite for Oakland. I think my number was more like a pick 'em like 105 kind of thing, as opposed to saying Texas should be the favorite.
All right, the stage is yours. Take it away.
Well, going over the first game of the night, St. Louis and Cincinnati is kind of interesting because you got Wainwright against Ashcraft, and just right off the bat, St. Louis is a much better team than Cincinnati. So you're going to get that sort of away favorite kind of number. My number is much bigger, by the way, than what the line is, and the line's dropping now. I think it was originally like minus 140, minus 145 or something, and I think some of these numbers are 130s now in some places. So now the issue with Wainwright is that you take Cincinnati off of his numbers, and he's extremely good. You add Cincinnati in there, and he's just very good. Yeah, Cincinnati beats the crap out of him. So he's, for whatever reason, he has a difficult time with Cincinnati. His game score in his last 5 starts against Cincinnati is 42. He's pitched against them this year, and he's at 49.5. So he's pitched twice against them. And that's barely, it's not even average, but it's close. Now, Ashcraft is the guy that throws 100 miles an hour but can't strike guys out. So he's got something going on with movement of the ball and being able to see the ball out of his hand. And to me, this is all St. Louis. But you got to figure out how to play it, or you can think about playing an over here, something like that, because I think there's going to be some runs scored because Cincinnati can hit this team. They actually have a better offense currently in the last 14 days than what St. Louis does. And I'm using 14 days instead of 7 just because the All-Star break was 3 or 4 days, and you got to get the numbers in right. So I think this could be an over kind of game out there. But I also think St. Louis should be a bigger favorite than what they are.
Yeah, I was looking at
Go ahead.
Team totals. St. Louis initially, that kind of jumped out at me. 5.5 juiced under -120. You have a Cincinnati team total of 4.5 juiced under 135 with an over a 10. So again, does St. Louis get the touchdown? Extra point, 2-point conversion. Vegas telling you since he's got a good chance to get at least 3 or 4, do they get to 5? Or do you just, like you said, they're both going to hit both pitchers and let's, shoot for, over 10.
Yeah. And keep in mind that, Cincinnati's bullpen is not very good either. So, you can run into a lot of different things here. And the next one was the Cubs and the Phillies. And this one was interesting too, because when I looked at this number, Gibson's not been good over the last 7 starts. His last 7 starts, his game score is a 49. For the season, it's a 51. And his last start was really good, though. He threw a 67. So I'm not expecting Gibson to have a great game today. Steele, on the other hand, is one of those guys that his game score over the last 7 is a 55. For the seasons, it's a 49. But when he's on, he's not hittable. He's pretty good when he's on. Philadelphia is not in the best spot right now in terms of hitting. Chicago is not hitting either. So I would tend to believe that, just by common sense looking at this, Gibson might not have the greatest game in the world, but Chicago's not hitting. So Philadelphia's not hitting, and Steele could have a good game. This could be an under kind of game. Even though you got two offenses that could hit and throw up some numbers. The Sierra metrics and the ERA plus for Gibson aren't very good tonight. So I'm not banking on him a whole lot, but my numbers tell me Philadelphia should be a bigger favorite than they are. Which is why I was a little bit surprised by the number. I think the number is somewhere in the neighborhood of 120 something. And it opened at like 150. And my numbers are in the neighborhood of the 160 range for Philadelphia. So it makes sense to me that Philadelphia should win this game, but it also makes a little bit of sense to understanding why people are betting on the Cubs. And I'm just not going to go either way. I didn't go anywhere with the St. Louis game either. I didn't go anywhere with this one, but I just think that it's an interesting way to look at the game because I think you do have a better pitcher in Steele, but Steele can get hit. And Gibson certainly can get hit, but when he's on, he's good too. So he was one of my favorite pitchers to bet on earlier in the year when he was on a run there because he wasn't getting the same line numbers that Nola and Wheeler were getting. So you could get the Phillies, especially if they're hitting in that spot, but they're not hitting right now. I think Philadelphia, ranking-wise, where is it at here? Philadelphia right now is 25th in offense. That's not very good. And the Cubs are 28th, so they're even worse. So when you start to think about that, under sort of makes sense here.
And it's a real short number especially for the Phillies, like you said. They're only -125, currently coming in 49 and 43 versus the Cubs 35 and 57. Again, second half, new beginning, new start, new breath of fresh air. You're going to see a couple teams that did not do well in the first half are going to shock the world, like the Tigers last year in the second half. They caught fire. There's going to be a couple of these teams that do that.
Now, I was kind of surprised. I shouldn't say surprised. That's not the right word. That both Baseball Prospectus and Fangraphs now are projecting the Pittsburgh Pirates to be third in this division at the end of the season in terms of wins. More wins than Chicago Cubs, more wins than the Cincinnati Reds. So, think about that kind of as you're looking at that Pirates. Well, the next game, the Pirates in Miami here.
No, I agree 100%.
I mean, I think Pittsburgh's a pretty good play here, to be honest. You're capitalizing on the idea that Miami hasn't scored. You're capitalizing on the idea that Garrett just pitched a 78 against your team the last time that they faced each other, which, the last time they both pitched. The only concern that I would have in this game is that Thompson pitched a 64, which was the best start that he had. So I would assume that both of these teams are going to hit a little bit. And if that's the case, neither one are the best offenses in the world, but Pittsburgh is 19th right now. Miami is 30th right now in terms of hitting, which makes total complete sense considering that they've scored 0 runs in the last 4 games. So, at some point they're going to score some runs. But that doesn't mean it's going to happen tonight. And it also doesn't necessarily mean that if they score runs, that they might not get but 2 or 3. So Pittsburgh can probably do that. Not that Pittsburgh has the greatest bullpen in the world, but it's not terrible. I think Pittsburgh's a little value here. They were one of my last plays that I didn't play because I thought there was a couple things a little better. But it was just interesting to see how that game broke out to me.
I agree.
And the next one was Yankees and Orioles. That was Tyon and Wells, and statistically, Tyon's one of the worst pitchers going right now. He is a ERA minus 182, which means he's 82% worse than an average pitcher over the last month. He's got a 4.30 xFIP number and a 4.11 SIERA. 4.11 SIERA is not terrible. But his game score over the last 7 is a 44. That's not very good for a guy that, is basically made 18 starts for the Yankees and won 14. So they've been winning games despite him. And the concern here for a Yankee fan is that Wells is pretty good. We say that a lot. He's been beat, but I mean he's not terrible. His game score is 52 on the season, 56 over the last 7, and he's got a game score 55 against the Yankees in 2 starts against them this year. So the Yankees just lost 2 straight games in Houston yesterday. Now they got to fly out here. If you're going to bet against the Yankees, tonight's the night. Tomorrow night, I wouldn't do that, but at least tonight, the carryover effect from the doubleheader yesterday, and then playing Baltimore, who's high on their horse coming off of the All-Star break. I think that they probably feel like they can play with anybody. So here you go. You got a scrappy team. You got a pretty good pitcher going against the Yankees' worst pitcher. So maybe this is the right spot for them.
I have a hard time with that one. A team total of 3.5 juiced over though, 125 there. Yankees, they're baiting you a 4.5 team total over 135 and under over a 9. If you add up the team totals, that only adds up to 8. So someone's going to shine today and someone's not, unless you're fortunate to get to that 4-4-5-5 battle.
Well, you just got to watch. Anytime you play the Yankees, you got to watch this number, and it's the walks per 9 innings by the opposing pitcher. And as long as that number is in good, and in my case on my board, it's as long as it's green, that's pretty good. And in this case, it's not; it's red. Wells has a 3.94 walk rate. So I'm sorry, 3.16 walk rate. So that means he's putting guys on. And if you're putting guys on and the Yankees hit the home run, that's how they're going to beat you, whether they get hits or not. They're going to, the guys on base and then the home runs is how they win. So, and then pitching. And if Tyon's not pitching really good, then this could be a big explosive score too. The next one is kind of hard because this is Darvish and Scherzer, and that line is for a competing team like San Diego. I thought that number was pretty high. Scherzer, was it minus 170 or something like that?
Closer to 180, 175, 180 at South Point, 176 at Westgate, 190 at William Hill.
Yeah, that's a big number. And especially when you consider the Mets offense, right? The Mets offense right now over the last 14 days is 20th in all of baseball. So it's not that they're out there knocking the ball off, cover off the ball, but you got Max Scherzer, who's in his last three starts, his game score 74. He threw an 83 the last time out. So it's hard to predict a guy like him that's going to have a dud game. But a dud's coming for him. Doesn't mean it's going to be tonight, but a dud's coming for him somewhere down the line. And Darvish is another one of those guys that's hit or miss, right? So when he's on, he's hard to hit, and he's been good against the Mets. I was kind of surprised. His last 5 starts against the Mets is a 67.5. That's like giving up very few runs, 2-3 runs in 7 innings. So then I started thinking about the under, and the under is 7, and I can't go there either because I could see a 3-3 game, and then all of a sudden somebody wins the game 4-3, and you don't win, but you're banking on it to be under 7, so you want 5 runs. So I stayed off of this game. But ERA minus tells me that Scherzer's much better right now. He's got a 36 in that category, so he's way better than average. And Darvish is 105. So Darvish at 5% worse than an average pitcher in that category tells me that the Mets should be favored. And of course, at this point, the Mets are big favorites. And it kind of surprised me that they were that big of a favorite when they're a team like San Diego, who was pretty competitive. The next game I do like, I have a strong holding situation here, and that was that Gausman-Eovaldi game. And I like Toronto here tonight. And Gausman's off a game score 51. His last 3 starts, his game score 58. So it seems like he's been turning the numbers around. But his ERA minus is a 30. And his xFIP number is 277. What that means that he's not relying on the defense. So he's doing a good job with strikeouts. He's doing a good job keeping guys off bait with the walks. 11.4 strikeouts per 9 innings. So I like that. And that means, and he's also not giving up the home run ball. So when it comes to what he's doing, I think that part of it's good. Now his batting average against is a little high. But that's just part of the nature of the beast, I guess. But when you look at what he's done also against Boston, it's really good numbers. And when you think about the xWOBA number, so what's expected on base average for Boston tonight, it's only 279. Average is going to be around 330, somewhere in that neighborhood. So he or 320, something like that. And that's where Eovaldi, even if he was on and he was healthy, his number is 320 against Toronto. So that's average. So okay, you're expecting average against him and below average for Gausman. And then when you look at the ERA minus number, I told you that was 30. Well, Eovaldi's 154. So that shows you a significant difference in pitching quality as you go forward. And that's where I like the idea that there's a big edge for Toronto. So Toronto's got a bigger edge on the mound. Offensively, Toronto is right now 7th, and Boston is 23rd. So that's a pretty big gap there. And then if you even wanted to take it one step farther and you wanted to go to bullpens, Boston's bullpen is 25th, and Toronto is, not that it's so much better, but it's 18th. So you got a back end edge, starting pitching edge, you got a offensive edge, and they were the original underdog here. So I get the flip, and I think it's worth noting that you should play probably on the flip.
I mean, I'd be interested to see second half here, Sox in the bullpen. How they manage how they manage Whitlock. Obviously the arms will be fresh. A lot of speculation here. Still a lot of talk about, Bogarts, Devers, contract situations. Will they become sellers, which I know and They won't, but they won't make any major moves at the deadline, which again is telling you exactly where their heart is. They're not giving up anyone to get anyone. So, this team falls flat on their face, 2-8. Their next 10, maybe things will change as we get closer to the deadline. But a big, big series for the Sox for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. The next game is the one that I think is a very interesting game with Ohtani against Morton. The Braves are a much better team than the Angels, and I get the number. But that doesn't mean you want to go right out and start betting on Ohtani because the Braves or the Angels still got to score. And when you start to think about, okay, offense and where's the offense going to come from, the Angels are 27th over the last 14 days. So that's not very good. And, we talked about how bad Miami is over the last 4 days, but Miami in the last 14 days have scored 23 runs. That's not very good. And the Angels in the last 14 days have scored 25 runs. So that's not very good either. So I don't think that you want to sit here and to say, okay, this is the time to support Ohtani. What you got to figure out is if Ohtani's streak is going to continue where he's pitching so good. Because if he continues to pitch really good, and Morton, who has turned his life around here in the middle of the season, if he pitches good, how are they going to get 7 runs tonight? How are they going to do it? And I think that 7 was shaded to the over, if I'm not mistaken. And I sit there and think, what the hell are they talking about? Are they expecting Ohtani to give up some runs? Are they expecting Morton to give up runs? So against a team that can't hit. So I got confused on exactly how to think about this game because I can't tell you that the right side is go bet Morton because it's too much money, especially against a guy like Ohtani. But at the same time, I don't want to bet on Ohtani because there's very, very little chance I think they can win the game. So if you're going to bet a total, how do you bet the total? Well, they're telling you to bet they think it's going to go over 7. Well, how? I don't know how it's going to go over 7 unless Ohtani, has to be taken out for some reason and the bullpen comes in and the terrible, Angel bullpen comes in and the Braves capitalize on that. So I just left it alone. I did, but I do think that, Ohtani's numbers, I told you about ERA minus and some of these numbers. This goddamn ERA minus, Jeff, is 9. I'm like, holy crap, a single digit? Are you kidding me? That's how good he's been. I mean, he has been that good. And it's amazing because Morton's number is 74, which is excellent as well. So you sit there and you go, oh my God, who's going to hit these guys tonight? I don't know. So my numbers show that this should be an under though.
I got team totals 3.5 under 135 for the Angels, 3.5 over minus 135 for the Braves. Currently looking at a 7.5 at bookmaker. If I look at the Vegas strip, they are 7 over minus 20 or 25 cents.
Yeah, I just don't know how it gets there, but maybe I'm not seeing it right. But I don't, if Ohtani goes 6-7 innings and Morton goes 6-7 innings, you got to figure they're only going to give up 1 run each or 2 runs or whatever, and then you got to figure out how they're going to get the rest of them, to get in there. So I think under was probably my thoughts there. Now I do like the next one that I'm going to go over, and that's Tampa Bay and Kansas City. This is Rasmussen against Keller, and I think the number's probably right. I mean, my line on this one, let me pull it up here for a second because I got it on a different. Oh, my computer's blocking it. Hold on 1 second. And here it is. My number on the game was Tampa Bay minus 140. And I think the number's right around 130. So I didn't think it was too far off. Hey, thanks, George. I appreciate it, brother. And anyway, one of the things that caught my eye here with this game is, again, we talked about some of these games or teams and where they stood offensively. And right now, Tampa Bay on offense. Not that they're killing the world on offense, because they're not, but they are better than they have been in a while. In fact, Tampa Bay, when you start to, they're number 5 in the last 14 days on offense. And that certainly is much better than where Kansas City is. Kansas City is 18th. So now you got a better offense in Tampa Bay. And then you got to start, okay, well, what about these starting pitchers? Well, Keller's off a game score 78. So and when you go back and look at his starts and his last few starts, he had a game score 78, then a game score 42, then a game score 66, and then a 32, a 79, and a 4. I mean, that's how it goes. So he's the epitome of, I had a great game, and then I'm going to throw a dud. I had a great game, then I'm going to throw a dud. Well, he's off a great game. So I'm looking at this game going, okay, well, I think I got the better pitcher tonight with Rasmussen, and because the other guy is primed for regression tonight, or ripe for regression is a good way to say it. And when I looked at the bullpens, not that Kansas City's bullpen has been awful, but Tampa Bay's has been much improved. They're second in baseball over the last 14 days. So that means a lot because they haven't been, their bullpen hasn't been the best. So it's been right up there over the last few days. So now here we go again with that same philosophy. You got a better offense, you got a better pitcher, and you got a better bullpen. Okay, give me the Rays. So that's sort of where I'm thinking on that one.
Yeah, we win against Keller. I called him Cy Keller that day. I could not. Who did he pitch against?
I would have to look. It's not going to be that hard. I got it right here. Keller's start was against where's he at? On my list. There he is. So his last start, that big game score was against Detroit. He pitched 7 innings, gave up 3 hits, 1 run, and he struck out 8. That's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I know. We had the Tigers that day. I was just like, hello, anyone there, please, anyone.
Yeah, and so those good starts that he had was against Detroit. Bad start was against Houston. Good start against Detroit. Bad start was against Oakland. Good start was against Oakland. Bad start was against Baltimore. Yeah, so good teams he can't beat. Bad teams he's doing okay, and I think that might continue tonight as we go looking at this a little far. Well, I'm playing on it to be that way anyway. So anyway, that was my thoughts on that game. This Cleveland and White Sox game, I would tell you this. If you're ready to pull the plug on the Twins, now's the time to jump in on the White Sox. So I don't recall what their number is right this second. I can probably find it to win the division, but I think now's the time because I think it's getting ready to be that kind of where is it? Baseball specials, batter props, game props, team futures. That's what I'm looking for. And that's not, let's see, American League teams, White Sox. Let's see what it says. White Sox. Odds to win the World Series. That's not what I wanted. I wanted the other odds. And of course, now I clicked the wrong thing, so I can't find it as fast as I wanted to. Anyway, where is it? Division winner. That's where it is. White Sox plus 115. Twins plus 120. Guardians are plus 450. And this is at DraftKings. So, I think if you were going to play them, now's the time to get them because I think at the beginning of the season, that was like minus whatever it was, a big number. So anyway, Giolito has found something and he's been able to pitch pretty well. His last start, though, was a 67. Now he's facing Quantrill, and you know how I feel about Quantrill. I don't really like Quantrill that well. And his last start was a game score 68. over the last 7 starts, Giolito's a 54, almost 55, and Quantrill's a 46. So I'm expecting Quantrill not to do well. Quantrill has a game score 43 against the White Sox this year. And Giolito in his last 5 starts against Cleveland's a game score 66. So I was looking to play on them, but I really can't, only because the White Sox are too high of favorites here tonight. I don't want to play the -1.5. So I think Giolito could get hit. So that just tends for me to believe that the White Sox probably win the game, but I don't feel comfortable with the -1.5 here. Although I did see somebody have the reverse opinion online somewhere earlier today. They thought that because Giolito has more fastballs now that he's throwing, that Cleveland's going to hit the fastball, which they might. I mean, whatever. My opinion basically is that Quantrill's going to get hit. Giolito has a less likelihood to get hit, but he could. And because of that, it scares me off the 1.5 or the run line. But I like the White Sox in that game. The next one is Colorado and Burns, Milwaukee. And I don't know how you would ever play this game. My number is God atrociously different because Senzatella is a guy that throws watermelons up there and people just crush it every time. Just to kind of give you an idea, his whip rate over the last month for Senzatella is 2.14. So he's allowing more than 2 guys on base every inning. And if you're going to do that, you're not going to win very many games. And his batting average against, Jeff, for Senzatella, 364. So it's not that he's putting guys on base. He just can't get them out. So then you got to figure out, okay, well, how can you play Milwaukee? Well, I suppose you could. And if what surprised me is if you look at the team total, it's not very high. I think it's what, 4 or 4.5 or something like that.
4.5 juiced under -120, so you can get them basically at 4.5 over for probably even money.
So this is where I go and say, okay, well, you got to bet on teams like Milwaukee and Minnesota and some of these teams, Philadelphia, when their hitters are hitting. And when you go back and you start to look at where Milwaukee is hitting, Milwaukee is 21st. So I said, no, I ain't going to go there. So I'm not going to go minus the 1.5. I'm not going to go, all that stuff because Burns is just unbelievable. His numbers over the last 7 starts, game score 68. For the season, he's a game score 64. His ERA minus is 39. I mean, he's just phenomenal. If it wasn't for Alcantara having such a great year, Burns is the guy. I mean, Burns is he's just that good. So the next one I thought is an interesting game because this is Washington and Arizona. And this is Patrick Corbin, who has shown signs of life. And I heard an interesting story that St. Louis is interested in getting him for down the stretch. And I'm like, shit, you're going to let him come over there and you're going to pay him that much money? Oh my God. But anyway, he's very hittable. He's off a game score 25. He's facing Gallen tonight, who's off a game score 60, who hasn't been good either. Over his last 7 starts, he's a game score 46. And Corbin is a game score 39. So, that's how bad it is for Corbin Burns. Or not Corbin Burns, but Patrick Corbin. And interestingly enough, XFIP and Sierra favor Patrick Corbin tonight. Because when I started breaking this game down and kind of looking at it, I'm going, you know what, I can get into this first 5 with Arizona tonight. And it's only, I just got to win the first 5. It's -120. And I kind of like that. And then I started looking at it a little deeper, and I go, oh, well, Arizona can't hit left-handed pitchers, and Arizona this. And then I thought, well, where did Corbin come from? Well, he came from Washington or from Arizona, so maybe he wants to stick it up their butt, and have a good game tonight. So I stayed off of it, but my lean was Arizona first 5 -0.5 a run.
I was looking at that Gallen. I remember talking the last Gallen start, and you were down on him, and he had a great start. He had a flash where he was putting games together, Arizona's been one of our kryptonites this year. I got to be honest with you. Go with them, nowhere to be found. Go against them, and then it's Cy Gallen. And you're right, by the way. Corbin Burns. Patrick Corbin has shown flashes, and he will most likely get traded, obviously, at the deadline if someone's going to eat that money with them. So listen, St. Louis has done wonders with pitchers back in the day. He'll come over, they'll work with him, they'll tweak this, and it's tough to get good lefties, so maybe they could correct them. So probably a win-win for both teams.
It would be interesting in my mind, because in my mind, St. Louis needs pitching. So and plus he's got the pedigree. I mean, he's won a World Series. He's been in the big spotlights. He's been in those big games. He just got to pitch. So he was one of those pitchers that would have a great year, then an off year, then a great year, then an off year. And now over the last couple of years, he just can't find that great year anymore. So maybe St. Louis knows something here and they can get him going. But I thought that was an interesting game. The next one's Texas, Oakland. And this is the one where I didn't agree with the flip. Irvin's off a game score 68, but he's got a game score 58 on the last 7 starts, a game score 55 for the season. And he's got a game score 69.7 over his last 3 starts and a game score 63.5 against Texas. So he has just been a pretty solid performer all season long. And even though he's got high numbers tonight, he's got a 4.61 xFIP, 4.72 Sierra, which is one of the higher ones on the board. It's not as high as Howard's. Howard's 5.67, 5.94. That's not good for him. And he's got, Irvin's got a better number in terms of ERA minus. It's a 90 versus a 117, but that's not a big gap. And then when you look at the xWOBA number, it's 290. So he's been very good against Texas. Neither one of them are big strikeout guys, but one of the biggest differences is Howard's a big guy walking guys. He puts a lot of guys on base, and maybe that'll help Oakland. I just can't support Oakland in a sense that, they don't score runs. So this is one of those spots where, Texas was in Miami last night and, they won. So, this is a carryover kind of effect. Does that carry over into this game? And then tomorrow night is the game that you want to bet against Texas. They're going to lose one of them. But I would think maybe tonight would be a better spot for Oakland. But I can't sit here and tell you to go bet on one of the worst teams in baseball.
No, I agree.
And this one I think is going to surprise you. This is the Seattle game. This is Urquidy and Gonzalez. Now, one of these pitchers, and I'm going to just tell you it this way, one of these pitchers has pitched in his last 5 starts against the opponent. He has pitched 22 innings. He gave up 36 runs or 36 hits, in those 22 innings and 21 runs. Well, that pitcher is Houston's Urquidy against Seattle. And Seattle's on that big win streak, right? They're still on that streak. So what's that guy's name? Kyle, the guy that won the Rookie of the Year for them, center fielder Kyle, whatever his name is. Anyway, that guy's playing tonight. He's back. So that could give him another spark. So then you got to keep Urquidy's off a game score 65. His season numbers are 49. So he's not been good, but he has been good over his last 7, game score 56. Gonzalez is off a game score 38, and he's hit or miss, man. I mean, when he's on, they can't hit him. And when he's off, they hit the shit out of him. So it's one of those situations that makes it so that it's kind of a spot there. What do you do? Well, over his last 7, he's a game score 51, which is a little bit above average, but a little better than average. But what I thought was interesting, over his last 5 starts against the Astros, he's a game score 61. That's pretty good when you consider Urquidy's at a 34 against Seattle. Now, then you go and look at the offense, and Houston's offense is ranked 24th right now. Is that what it is? Yeah, 24th. Seattle's 9th. Now that's based off of, the sabermetric numbers and offensive WAR and that kind of stuff. When you look at this run scored, Houston scored 45 runs. Seattle scored 44 runs in the same number of games, less productivity. So what I liked here was the idea that theoretically you got momentum and you got Seattle wanting to keep their streak alive. They get the kid back. Urquidy's been bad against Seattle. He's due to have a bad game. The bullpen for Seattle is I think ranked 4th right now. Houston's not as bad. I mean, it's ranked 9th, so it's not a big issue. But again, you go back to that same theory. You got a better pitcher, you got the better offense, and you got a bullpen. Give me Seattle and the underdog tonight.
Just quickly, with that 2-game sweep yesterday, the Astros now just 3 games back of the New York Yankees. I had to do a double take. Houston 61-32. The whole world, we're talking the whole world, where the first half the Yankees have had. Yankees 64-30. 3-game difference. Now, don't tell me. I know some people say home field advantage in baseball, blah, blah, blah. Get Houston at home for the playoffs and the ALCS versus having to play Game 7 in the Bronx. Houston will be favored. I don't care if Garrett Cole's pitching or not. Houston will be favored.
No question, especially if Verlander's on the mound. So this is an interesting situation in Houston because, coming into the season, it was all about, you lost Correa. Now, I did a little research and I knew Pena was going to be pretty good, and he's lived up to that. So they haven't really missed Correa as much as they might have had to missed him. And then McCullers isn't there. So you thought, okay, well, who's going to be the pitchers, right? And you didn't know what Verlander was going to give you. So now they got Verlander as again, one of the best pitchers in baseball. Valdez, they found, is one of the best pitchers of baseball. And then you can just keep going down the list, right? Garcia is great. So they got guys that can pitch, and then you just kind of figure it out because they got guys that can hit. So it's not all about a walk and a home run for that team. They can manufacture runs and do all kinds of things. So it'll be interesting how it shakes out at the end. But I think that Houston's obviously not going anywhere. They're going to win that division. They're going to do well, and they could be the number 1 seed too as it all wraps up and ends. But now the last game is Webb and Anderson. I got burned last night because I liked Rodon. He was supposed to pitch good and he didn't. And then I thought I got off the hook there when they battled back, took the lead, but that didn't work out either. So then you got to sit to the same situation tonight, right? You got Webb, who's a better pitcher than Anderson. But what I don't like about these situations is the Dodgers just are the Dodgers, and for whatever reason they're beating these teams that should be a little more competitive, that should be able to beat these teams. They wither away, I think. Like the Giants. When the Giants were beating the Dodgers, who their pitcher was? It was Bumgarner, and it's because Bumgarner pumped out his chest, wore his cowboy hat and his boots and his big belt buckle, and said, "Come get me." And everybody else goes in there and goes, "Okay, whatever. I'm going to nip and tuck it, and then they get beat." It's like here, give me your best shot. Let me go out here and beat you, as opposed to the other. And I think that's what's going on with the Dodgers. The Dodgers have the number 2 best offense in baseball right now, and the number 3 best offense is San Francisco, by the way. So they're doing things right now too with getting the belt of the world, and some of these guys not playing, mixing in some of the youth. But I'm going to leave this one alone. These numbers are too much for me to keep diving into and saying, okay, we're going to lose. But I will say this. It doesn't hurt to support the team that you were on the night before when you lost. because that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to lose 2 in a row. And again, you're getting good numbers with Webb here, and Webb's been decent against the Giants, and Anderson has not been good. I'm sorry, Webb's been decent against the Dodgers, and Anderson's not been so good against the Giants. So the Giants have been good against left-handed pitching. So this is one of those spots where I'm basically backing it off just because I played them last night.
Yeah, I mean the first 5 Dodgers are only minus 130, and Webb is plus 112, and in the spread, San Fran plus a hook is minus 125. So again, like yesterday, they're kind of baiting you. I was a little gun shy, obviously, of the San Fran bullpen, and I stayed away. And hats off for them rallying from 5-0 to take a 6-5 lead. And when they take the lead, most teams would have folded. And that's the problem with the Dodgers, is that their lineup is so long, and if these guys at the bottom, they have Bellinger batting 9th. Let me repeat that. Bellinger batting 9th. He'd be batting 4, 5, and 6 for most teams, even as bad of a season that he's having. So Bellinger gets on, and then what's that do? It gets to the top of the order. In comes Mookie and Trey Turner. I mean, good luck. Good luck.
Well, I mean, that's how you do it, right? I mean, you roll the order over. You get some support from the back of the lineup. You get the guys on base for the front of the lineup, and then there's no easy outs. And I think that's where some of the variance comes into play here, because these teams are playing more like teams as opposed to like what the Yankees do. Even though the Yankees are good, don't get me wrong. I mean, the Yankees are great. I just don't like their brand of baseball.
No, I agree. So Full Slate, Scotty broke down the board well as always, and we thank you there. Give everyone that just joining us now who you got for plays today.
Well, I like Tampa Bay tonight over Kansas City. I like Toronto over Boston, and I like Seattle against Houston.
And for the ECSI VIPs, we'll be getting an alert out soon. Tomorrow morning at some point, I'll have Riley on. We'll break down the full slate there. And then again on Sunday morning, if something comes up, guys, I will put something on the timeline. Have some family issues going on. Could use some positive thoughts and prayer out there, please. Remember, life is short. And I think we take for granted a lot of these days. And I always try to stress this. When you wake up in the morning, if your feet hit the ground, it's a gift. It's a blessing. You got 24 hours to make a difference. Go out there and do something. Don't sit on the goddamn couch all day and watch Netflix. It's the dog days of summer. It's hot out there. Check on your neighbors. If you got some older or elderly neighbors, check on them. Make sure they're all set. Maybe they need help with a fan or an AC unit, or maybe they just need someone to say hi. How many times you get out of your comfort zone? If you're just going through life with the blah blah blahs and just settling for less, that's what's going to happen. And then when you're sitting there in your 60s and 70s wondering what the hell you did with your life, what do you got to show for it, then it's too late. So enough of the rant and rants there. Listen, I want everyone to have a blessed evening. I want everyone to enjoy the night. Don't be that guy. Don't leave the pizza on the oven. It's a short week here, meaning there weren't a lot of stuff to wager on. So if you're starting the week today, don't mean you have to go balls to the wall here, guys. So check your bankroll. We got 6 weeks till start of football. We want to be building that bankroll. We don't want to be paying the man. So please, please, please do it responsibly. And if you do have that problem, pick up the phone. There's an 800 number and ask for help. Why? Myself and Scotty care. We want to see you here today, tomorrow, next week, next month, through 2022 and beyond. From myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, from the one and only Scotty Webb at Webby20 MLB. We wish everyone a blessed evening. Have a blast, and we will catch you bright and early in the morning.